Hello. Once again, this is crazy. Hi, I'm Chico West with Filter Optional.
Yes, and I'm Shannon West.
And this is our first live show. We always send it live at 10 a.m. on Monday mornings, but right now we're at the studio. We've been traveling a little bit, and we're doing our first truly live show. We're hoping to do a couple more this year, but Kevin has been gracious. He's our production manager. He produces our show, and we're excited about, being live here at the KEPX studios.
This is the real deal, man.
It
Yes,
is
yes.
the real deal.
You guys are live.
So what happened last week? There's a few things. We went to a great conference. It's called the Winter Symposium. It was in Colorado Springs.
Yes, it was a lot of fun.
It was fun. It was very informative. Good to catch up with people from the Colorado area and other areas. But then when we got back, I got the flu, and I am not good being sick.
No, he is not. He is a man-child.
I am a man-child. I will admit that.
With the man flu.
I was holed up, and I caught it quickly. And I went to the doc.
He says that I didn't take good care of him, but I gave him a can of Lysol, a box of Tamiflu, a bottle of Gatorade, and said, "You're on your own."
I thought you were gonna say something else, a box of something else, but that's all right, But I
don't know what that means.
But I struggled. I was holed up. Today I'm feeling better. It's still a little bit in my voice. I think
Yes.
Shannon, you're starting to get a.
It's okay. I'm good.
You can motor through it a little better than me. If we had tried to do this episode last week, it would have been a nightmare.
I have to. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about because I think it's an interesting topic.
It is an interesting topic. But first, before we even get into that topic, let's give a shout out, man. Thank you, Whitney, for showing up, and, Austin and Linda and Liz. I like seeing people on there. We're going to have an opportunity. We're going to try to multitask. Shannon might be a little better at multitasking than me when it comes to Facebook and answering your questions. But at the Winter Symposium, we had an opportunity to have a lot of collaboration with some good people. We believe in collaboration at Casa Colina. But one of the things that both of us went to is I love the title of the talk that we went to. And Lisa Marzelli was the speaker, and she has her PhD in pharmacology, and she was a brilliant speaker and did a great job. And it was called Marijuana: Weeding Through the Facts.
Yes. And we both went because you can go to all these, seminars when you're at a conference. Mm-hmm. And we both chose really to go to it selfishly, I think. Well, I went selfishly because we have teenagers, and then there is a lot of confusion. And we were in Colorado where it's legal, so
to recreationally smoke marijuana.
Right. So, I wanted the facts. I mean, I really wanted to, and so today I don't really want to talk about whether or not it should be legal or not, or any of those things. I just want to talk about the facts behind it and how it affects the teenage brain for sure. And as parents, how you weed through the facts.
Yes, and that's what I like. She did a great job. She didn't get into, any
right or wrong.
Yes, political speak or stuff like that. But a couple things I'm not sure a lot of people understand, just what's going on with marijuana. I mean,
right.
there's really a couple things that are happening in marijuana. Yes, it's legal in several states to recreationally use. It's legal in many states for medicinal purposes. And there is some, actual good facts. But there's a real big difference between the psychoactive components of marijuana, and that's the THC. That's where people, we think of Spicoli. If you're our age, it's Spicoli with Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yes.
That you get stoned smoking the ganja.
Yes.
And so then there's the medicinal stuff is the CBD oil.
That you're hearing a lot about, and in fact, Channel 5 here in Dallas did a news story about how it's, being sold in stores, but is it really legal and all this stuff? And can you get arrested for it? And all, there's still so much, controversy around the CBD oil that, pure CBD oil only has like 0.01% of THC, if any.
Yeah, but even pure CBD oil doesn't even if they can take it out now.
Yes.
And it will not have any THC, so it won't have any psychoactive properties. So you're not gonna get stoned or high or whatever you think of when you think of that. And it actually has some good medicinal purposes. It works well with people, with little kids that have seizure disorders.
Yes, and I think one of the biggest eye-opening things for me was that we as adults and Americans can't get it straight that we need to just research the CBD oil and find out, because it's expensive right now, I think, for these families, because
yes, thousands of dollars.
Yes.
And so it does actually work. I mean, we have this epidemic called the opiate epidemic right now, and opiates actually work, for pain. People, use
that's
that.
what they're for.
Anesthesiologists use it all the time.
Yes.
We had the largest fentanyl bust, but that's where fentanyl's been around a long time, but now people are abusing it.
Right.
But getting back to one of the slides that I like that Lisa, opened her talk with was, despite documented human use for thousands of years, what cannabis is and what it does to the brain and body remains shrouded by strong bias that result in contradictory scientific studies and findings. And so then she goes, Pandora's box of toxic substances, ? Treasure trove of medicinal useful chemicals. Attempt to clarify that. And so she did a pretty good job trying to attempt to clarify it. Is it a drug, and does its use have potential harm or benefits? And I think she demonstrated both. But really what we want to focus on is the harmfulness in the developed brain of the adolescent.
Yes. And I think what was eye-opening for me, and we can get back to the CBD oil later, because I have an autoimmune disease that it might be very beneficial for me. And so knowing the science behind it is great. But I think what we deal with in the teenage world right now is that we are looking back at like Spicoli, and we're like, oh, all the teenagers experiment with, alcohol and pot. And I think that in our mind, we think we can control that and train kids. I mean, I've heard, parents say that they think that they can kind of train their kids to drink responsibly. And we're not talking about alcohol right now, but they think that they can control their intake, like maybe letting them drink at home during the Super Bowl or whatever, and they might just have a few beers over a long period of time. They think they can train that. And so I think that parents have that same feeling about marijuana too, because they're looking back at the Fast Times at Ridgemont High days, and no pun intended, but and they're looking back at that and they're thinking, oh, well, that's just, we all smoked pot too and whatever. But the slide that was is that street marijuana back in 1976 had, 4% THC?
Yeah, it was really low. And now,
and then in 1983 it had 6%?
Yeah, 7.
7. And now in 2015, when they were studying this, that's still 4 years ago or whatever, 3 years ago. But it had 15% street marijuana. And
no, it's 18%.
18%. And then a lot that's tested.
Not marijuana, THC, the psychoactive.
Yeah. Is that what I said?
You said marijuana.
It has the THC, 18% THC, and some that was tested up to 30% THC.
Well, now there's even more that, the wax and the dabs is 90 to 98%.
Yes.
And so the concentration is so strong, And marijuana is, it's a sedative. Also, it has the properties of a mild hallucinogen, and so then it had the properties of a mild hallucinogen back in the 70s and 80s. But now when you have that concentration, it really affects the brain. And
it causes psychosis.
Oh, big time.
And I think people are confused because I remember you got a call, being in the business that you're in, a college freshman she got a call from the college that he was in a mental institution, like he was in a mental hospital, and she called you to say he swears that he just smoked pot, that's all he's been doing, he's just smoking pot. Is he lying to me? She was asking you, is he lying to me? Because he's had a psychotic break and he's in a mental hospital. And you're like, yeah, that can happen. So that was obviously eye-opening for that family, but it's happened a lot more over the years since you got that call. And parents just aren't aware of it. They aren't aware that, I don't know. I think that some find out that their kids are smoking pot and they're like, oh, well, okay, this is just along with alcohol and it's legal, therefore it's safe. I think people equate legal with safe.
Yeah, and the science behind it, and that's the crazy thing is, Ben Court wrote a good book, Weed America, Weed Epidemic. And he has a lot of research that goes into the fact that the research behind studying marijuana, just like Lisa is doing, is we're kind of behind when it comes to from a political standpoint. We're not getting into the political piece, but
right.
Pro marijuana, pro hemp movement has really done a lot of good of pushing out there. Hey, here's all the benefits,
right?
And they don't look at the the bad side. The deal is right now with marijuana, people smoke it. They're also doing it through the vape pen.
Right.
And the vaporization is actually creates even more problems, and people don't even realize that versus ingesting it and stuff like that, because you're lighting it up to 230 degrees.
Right. That was another scientific thing on the slides, is that when it is heated up, it's even worse, and
it brings
we
out.
don't know those things.
Yeah.
I don't know those things.
Well, and it brings out the pesticides and the
Yes.
the herbicides and all this stuff that people are growing it.
Yes.
And how it affects, and we don't even have enough evidence there. But getting back to parents tend to minimize that. Oh, it's not a big deal,
right? Yes.
And in my field, people have no problem admitting that heroin or cocaine or acid is a big deal.
Right.
The hardest people that I deal with is the adolescents, and really more their families coming in going, there's a they're smoking pot. Get them to not smoke as much.
Right. Well, and then the scientist, Liz, the one that was giving the talk, she was very fair about everything, and she kept saying, I'm not telling people to not smoke pot. I'm telling people, or do pot or eat gummies or whatever, there's so many ways now that you can do it. But she was saying, I'm not telling people not to do it. I'm telling people not to do it when they're not of age.
Until the brain develops after 22 years old.
Because she said that the science is irrefutable, that it is insult to your brain. And it's 500 times, she said 500 times more damaging to insult the brain. Like a concussion is insulting the brain, smoking the pot is insulting the brain. Trauma.
And so what it's doing is it's insulting the brain in that adolescent brain. And we tend, part of the issue is we're seeing that people are minimizing the effects, and so they're in
of alcohol too.
Of alcohol too, and we're not disputing that.
No,
but
right.
back when I first started drinking, I was way underage, but the drinking age in Texas was 18.
Right.
And so, parents
went
were
to 19.
and then it went to 21, and I always missed it.
Yes.
But the deal is we saw that the effects, and so hey, let's change that.
Well, and in 1985, ecstasy was legal.
Yeah, I mean, and so we're realizing
You know-
all these things that weren't good. But I love, THC in your body. You're only high for a few hours, but chemical traces of marijuana called THC stays in your body for a month or more. THC metabolites are stored in the brain, the testicles, ovaries, and other fatty organs, and are detectable by urine. Marijuana smoke irritates the throat and lungs, has twice as much tar as cigarette smoke. Frequent use is linked to an increased risk in lung cancer, bronchitis, and emphysema. You know, marijuana inhibits short-term memory, slows reaction time, impairs visual tracking, the ability to follow moving objects accurately. Frequent use is also linked to cognitive impairment and inability to abstract and understand concepts. It speeds up the heart rate as much as 50% while high, and has increased risk for anyone with heart disease.
Yeah.
And so the deal is we're just trying to present the facts.
Well, exactly. And I do truly believe that it is it's always been our position. First of all, we have a lot of friends that are like, "Oh, it's so great that, you have, children and you live with a counselor and an addiction, therapist and like Chico, whatever." And I said, "Well, no, that's, no one's immune to it. And our family is affected just as much as anyone else's. But we have always stood by the fact that we just will never condone it. I mean, the alcohol or anything else, the drug use or anything, we just will not condone it. We will not try to teach our children how to safely consume alcohol or drugs."
And the evidence keeps pointing to how it is harmful for the adolescent. Harmful in the development, harmful where it stores itself. It can create that psychosis. It creates psychosis more so in the adolescent brain, just because the brain still isn't fully developing.
Right. That's what the injury to the brain, the 500 times more likely to do permanent insult and injury to your brain.
Yeah, and it creates this sense of anxiety. Being an adolescent, you're already anxious.
Right.
And so all of a sudden you add in, marijuana, man, it increases. I look back at this, perceived riskiness of smoking marijuana has declined pretty dramatically.
Perceived risk.
Perceived
Yes.
risk.
Because of the legalization, I think.
Oh, yeah. But
So-
1991, and also I think if you look at it, 1991, 92 is when the internet really started to take off.
Right.
And so then, there's a lot of disinformation coming out. So in 1991, 8th graders had a perceived risk. 8th grade students in America, it was about 90%. 10th grade students, it was about 82%. It was 78% for seniors in high school in 1991. Fast forward to 2013, it's gone from 90% for 8th graders down to less than 60%. For 10th graders, it's gone down to 46% see the perceived risk.
Yeah.
For seniors in high school, it's 38%.
Right.
I mean, that's a rapid decline of that perceived risk. So they're getting this information, and the deal is we don't see it on, because if we're in our room or
Right.
whatever, or kids have this, that has all this
Well,
information,
yes.
and everything is saying, oh, it's not a big deal, you just do it and stuff
well, even,
like that.
Even, I don't know about Travis, but, Beck he's our freshman in high school, and he's a huge researcher. Like, he researched the flu shot because he was like, what's the perceived risk of the flu shot? He researches everything he does. I mean, he YouTubes videos on how to change a tire or how to, so he's getting a lot of his information. I could see him being like, well, hey, I might want to experiment with some marijuana, and what's the deal with it being legal? And so does that make it safe? And I could see him YouTubing the risk of the whole thing and getting a ton of misinformation.
Oh, big time.
But you go ahead.
Well, and our big struggle, we have our parent struggle, but I don't even want to talk about that. It's
Yeah.
what we want to do is have people at least pause and begin to, get a better feeling of what what the issues are.
Right.
To understand the whole thing. Where, we're not disagreeing that there is, medical proven science that CBD actually is very beneficial in
Yes.
some circumstances.
Yes. I am actively looking into that right now for my inflammatory disease that
Yeah.
I have. I think it is worth scientifically, looking into, but I have had people, we have people in our life that are avid marijuana supporters, THC,
Yeah, no,
And,
they smoke pot.
Yes, and they have said to me, "Oh, I think this would really help your colitis. I think this would really help you." And I'm
But
like,
they're not.
That's not going to help me.
But
I don't-
but here's the deal: is they're talking about actually just getting high. They're
Yes.
talking about, okay, the THC and CBD combined,
Yes.
and you smoking it and you chilling out,
Calming
and-
the gut
Yes,
and-
and but they're not. We're talking about you looking at the CBD oil apart from the THC.
Absolutely, 100%.
And maybe
yes.
having the
I'm not-
oil and the ointment and stuff like that has where you're not going to get stoned.
Right, that's not my thing. That's not my
Yeah.
jam.
Yeah, and-
anyway,
and-
but it's not, and it's a lot of people's, and that's fine. But I think when you're looking at your kids, it's now in the same category as alcohol. You're not going to teach your children how to responsibly do cocaine. But now that the marijuana and the alcohol are seemingly a normal, remember how we talked about normal part of high school and college and even middle school life, unfortunately, I think parents are like trying to delay the impact of drug testing their kids and taking it away from them, and they're like, oh, this, I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, well,
I'm not saying it very well.
No, but I believe what you're saying is marijuana has become so normalized in our society and our culture.
Yes.
That, part of that normalization is, it is taking away the causes and effects, how it does affect the brain, how it does create more anxiety, how it does create that isolation
Yes.
in young people and stuff like that.
And another good thing that I think the scientist brought up was that people don't die from smoking marijuana. I think that's a okay thing to put out there, because I think a lot of people, try to keep their kids away from it. So they're like, oh, one of the arguments is like, people are going to start driving and whatever. And everybody says, no, they don't drive. What, but the science says you can't really OD on marijuana, THC. Okay, now we don't know what's mixed all in with it and all the, we should talk about the synthetics too that are legal, that are causing so many problems.
Yeah, the spice and the K2. But getting back to, okay, I think what Lisa was saying is, yes, I mean, people aren't going to, you can drink yourself to death. You can
Yes.
have so much alcohol that you will die.
Yes.
I think people are, they are having marijuana related fatalities from driving.
Yes.
But no one's you can't smoke enough to get, stoned. But the deal is that's from smoking. These edibles now can create some of that and create those heart issues and stuff
Yes,
like that.
yes.
I had a friend that I met him at the hospital. He ate too many edibles, and his wife was freaking out, and I go, he's just stoned.
Right.
I mean, it was
Right.
it was crazy. But those are the things that but the deal is
It's not your mama's pot.
no, it ain't your mama's
Not
pot.
your grandma's pot.
Yeah, no, not either. And pot's been around forever, but the deal is they are they're getting them in these grow houses and grow labs
Yes.
and really, bringing the strains together, and then they can extract that THC. And so that the THC, when they extract it, and then they talk about it being, dabbed or waxed because it kind of looks like earwax. They smush it together, and then the kids are, heating that up. Not even kids, everybody, and they're getting stoned out of their mind, and it is really, powerful. But the deal is,
That's where the move came from, the dab,
Yes.
because you smoke it, it's so strong, and whatever that you put your head and your elbow. Yeah.
yes,
So,
exactly.
all these parents need to quit dabbing. Did you not know that? Yeah.
Yeah, and so.
Yeah.
And so that becomes that.
Little culture.
Yeah,
I learn all kinds of stuff on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's pretty hip.
No, I am not, but
But our issue, if you're looking at weeding through the facts, we're separating CBD versus THC.
absolutely.
The problem is, in weeding through the facts, people throw THC and CBD together.
They do.
They are separate. One's the female, one's the male. It is an actual plant.
Yes.
And when you separate that, it has good effects.
And she did kind of say in the science that's kind of funny that, how they market, you can go into a dispensary in one of these legal states and, they have like, here you want this one. She had all the names for them, you want this one because it's calm, and you want this one because it's, livens you up or whatever. And she said, really, that's all kind of bunk. I mean, but it is the levels.
Yeah,
they try to-
of the strain of THC, from
the strain of THC,
18 to
exactly.
30% to yes, and they're perfecting that science. The problem is
But it's not a perfect science.
No,
so you don't really know what you're
there's
getting.
so many different chemicals
Yeah.
in there, and besides the CBD and THC, there's CFD. I mean, there's so many different strands going on in that one plant.
Right.
And how to separate that and find out what's happening is that tough place.
Which does require the money and the research, and that, quite frankly, the medical community should be putting in. But, and then I don't even want to get into the discussion about big farm and all that stuff. But, anything that's natural, it's cheaper and whatever. So, but the research needs to be done.
Yeah, and we're not against the research. We're not, saying that. But what we are saying is, through weeding through the facts, what we're trying to help people see is, pause and step back. But our deal is, we see a lot of our peers that do, we know people in our neighborhood that smoke pot. The deal is, they have kids. They don't want their kids smoking, but where do you think their kids learn? Where do you think it happens? The deal is, you get a little stoned, you might say something off color. Your kids their brains are a sponge. They're picking up on that
They
crap.
know, and they're watching. I mean,
Yes, and the deal is, they think, oh, that's what, adults do. I want to do that.
right.
And the deal is, the hypocrisy is what I get passionate about.
Yes, I know.
I mean, it drives me nuts, the hypocrisy. Okay, hey, smoke, but, watch out.
Right.
It's going to come back, and, all of a sudden you're trying to communicate about, the effects and how it does affect, the adolescent brain, and how the brain isn't developed, and how THC, we have cannabis receptors in the brain, and how it, our brain is a fatty cell, and it starts to store itself there. And then all of a sudden where you're seeing where, it's not firing on all cylinders.
Right. Right.
And the deal is, when it's not firing, and you're okay, if you want to choose to do that when your brain's developed, okay, go do that.
Right.
But when you're dealing with adolescents, man, it creates big problems.
Yeah. And we're talking about the THC and the, all of that.
Yeah, and it's addictive.
I know. Yeah, you're going to open a can of worms with that one.
Yes, but we know alcohol is addictive.
Right.
But alcohol is not addictive to 90% of the population that
Right.
drinks.
Right.
Maybe, give or take a little.
Right.
Marijuana is not addictive to most people. But it does have that. You're wrestling
And your
with
risk
that.
your risk of addiction to substances is so much higher if you start the younger you start.
Oh, by far.
And so that's again, we're talking about the adolescent brain. It's just never, my whole point is it's just never safe for them to do any of this. And so I don't want to argue with anybody about that. Like, we can talk about all the arguments, after the brain develops and all that kind of stuff, but
When you're talking adolescence, it's not safe.
it's just not safe.
It opens up a can of worms.
Yes. And so I think as parents, we have to clue into 2019 and quit looking back at Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And we need to
Or dazed and confused.
we need to talk to our kids about it. We need to tell them the dangers. We cannot condone it. We can't ignore it.
You got to drug test them,
Yes.
and if they do that, I mean, hey,
and at least
embrace
threaten
them. Yeah, and I'm not big on the threat. I give them consequences and, address that.
Well, I mean, threaten to drug test them.
Not threaten, actually drug test
Well,
them.
yes, I know. But,
Yeah.
I mean, just have one at home. You can buy them at CVS. Okay. A lot of
Or
parents don't know that.
Walgreens.
A lot of parents are like, well, how would I ever go get a drug test or whatever? I mean, you can buy them over the counter and then have it sitting in your house like we do.
Yes.
But, I just think we've got to rise up for the safety of our children and talk about it more. I mean,
Yeah, and the deal is, okay, if you're an adult and you're in Colorado, or we're not going to advocate to smoke pot in a state that it's illegal, but I'm not going to also pass judgment if you're doing
if
that.
it's legal.
Yes.
You're saying, yeah.
But I mean, if you
Well, and also there's some legalities that parents don't know about kids. Another call that you received was from a mom. The kid was on spring break in Florida and got pulled over and then was caught with hemp oil, I guess THC, hemp.
no, he was caught in Texas. He was coming back from Colorado.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
I got that. I've told that one wrong.
Yes, you have. And
but-
in Texas, the oil is a felony.
It's a felony. And so
Yes,
the
and so
the
he
mom
got-
was like, what am I going to do? And you were like, you're going to call an attorney.
Yeah.
You need to get a good lawyer.
But that that's the issue is we have. So we're not against it when you're an adult and do that. But man, if you have kids, you need to really look at your consumption.
Yeah.
You need to look at, hey, that the bullshit about, hey, do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
I mean, that's just,
And if you need, the point is that if you need the CBD oil,
go get it.
go get it.
Invest
Go
in
find
it. And I mean, it can do some positive stuff.
Yes, I know that
And
parents like Elizabeth Bowman she commented early on, and I can't concentrate on both, but she said she's going to listen later, but that it has some it's a lot of moms and dads are talking about it with kids with autism and seizures and things like that, and then the inflammatory disease that I have. I mean, I want to talk about it, and there shouldn't be a stigma.
And there's a difference between the THC and CBD.
Right, absolutely.
And then the deal is we got, there's one place, I think it's Stanley Brothers up in Colorado Springs that actually does a good job of separating the two.
Yes.
And they is what Lisa Merzelli was telling us, that they have done the best research and stuff like that.
Because their daughter suffered from seizure disorder, so they figured it out.
And so the deal is we're not anti-marijuana, but the deal is there is THC and CBD, and understand the differences.
Yeah, and we've had too many young people end up in the hospital with psychosis, and so sure they didn't die from smoking pot, but they their brain has been insulted, and you know, in a very bad way.
Yeah, not healthy.
Not healthy.
Yeah. And that's, that's what's happening out there. And so really today's deal is weeding through the facts and the facts of the adolescent brain. The adolescent brain is still in development. It doesn't have that protective shield that, it completely develops until actually age 22.
Right.
And
so isn't it in boys at 25 because they're a little slower to develop?
They're a little slower.
Their brains.
Yes.
That frontal lobe.
Yeah, and the impulsivity's greater and stuff like that. And so the deal is when you're given a carcinogen that actually, you think takes away the anxiety, but it actually increases the anxiety after the effects start to wear off.
Right.
That you're just it's like if you're depressed and you drink. I mean, it does something for a little bit, but then all of a sudden you're more depressed because it's a depressant.
Right. I'm pretty sure we could talk about this for a long time, and I'm pretty sure we might get some questions, and we'd love to talk it out and research with people.
Yes, and please, deal this. This was our first live show. My feed on my Facebook was a little sporadic, but that's my iPad. We're excited, for next week's episode. We can't wait till you tune in. It will not be a Facebook Live one. But thank you, Kevin, for making this week's work.
Yeah,
Shannon,
thank you guys.
job.
Yeah, let's keep the kids safe.
Yes, let's do it. And let's begin the conversations. Talk about it.
Yeah.